Morning, everyone. Welcome to the November 2024 Connect OC Coalition meeting. My name is Crystal Bleischer. I am the program director with Partners for Wellness and Connect OC. And a little bit about us for those that may be joining for the first time. Connect OC is a program of Partners for Wellness in partnership with Orange County Healthcare Agency. Our focus is providing education and promoting, existing mental health resources for youth and young adults here in Orange County. Our mission is really to make mental health more accessible and more widely known kind of throughout the community. So many of you who have been kind of joining us since the beginning may notice that David Pattison is not here. If you were not here last week, David has resigned from his position here with us to further pursue his master's and his license for his marriage and family therapy. So he is seeing clients and things like that. So we'll miss him, but the team here is going to be covering things for today. So we'll start with kind of introductions of the rest of the team. And Sarah, you're actually the first on my list up here. So we'll start with you.
Hi, good morning, everyone. I'm Sarah Chalice. I'm one of the outreach coordinators on the team, specifically overseeing event coordination and event planning. I'll pass it to Erin. She's next to me.
Well, good morning. I am the engagement manager for Partners for Wellness. I'm so happy to see everyone today and excited to host this meeting and speak more about our work with veterans, especially. So I'll pass this on to Vivi.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Vivi Vu. I'm also one of the outreach coordinators, and I specifically oversee social media and marketings, or any of the things you see posted online and newsletters. I'll pass it on over to Joy.
Hi, everybody. My name is Joy Medina. I'm also an outreach coordinator, and I help out with events as well and outreach coordinating. So
awesome. Thanks, team. And like I mentioned earlier, if you haven't already, please introduce yourself in the chat. We'd love to know who's here joining us today and where you're from. And if you're comfortable with it, include your email for others to be able to contact you or any information about the agency that you're representing. So without further ado, like Erin mentioned, Erin is going to be hosting our meeting today and leading our panel conversation. Thank you to Juan and Tom for joining us and being a part of this conversation about veterans. And we're looking forward to having the conversation. Erin, I'll turn to you.
Thank you so much, Crystal. And this is a very special coalition meeting in which we get to celebrate Veterans Day, which is coming up on Monday, and just to really honor the veterans that we work with. This can be an isolated community, and so it is one of our privileges and honor to work directly within the veterans community and even within young veterans who have been recently deployed and came back. And so there are various ways in which we get to do that. And as the engagement manager, I also manage the program, which is the Cultural Arts and Mental Health Outreach Program. And so through that, we get to share workshops through teaching artists that include painting and writing and music and photography and different ways to engage within communities, especially within isolated communities. And so been able to work a lot with veterans in the last couple of years, and it's such a redeeming and important aspect. And one of the favorite parts of my job, as someone said, I think not just one person, but as many people say, freedom isn't free. And so as we celebrate veterans, we're celebrating the sacrifice that they make and honoring them by giving them support as they are reintegrating back into civilian life in a way and in post-active duty. So I'm very honored to be joined today by Juan Garcia. He is the peer support program coordinator for U.S.VETS. We work very closely on the Art of Valor celebration and workshops and event, and it is something that takes months in process, and I am excited for him to update us all on that in just a moment. And then I'm also joined by Tom Boscamp, who is the Veteran Services Coordinator for Coastline College, and we've done some amazing events there. And Tom Boscamp is just one of the people in the veteran community that people just know immediately his name and say, "Oh yeah, well, you want to do that? Have you talked to Tom?" And he just gets it done. And so was also scheduled to be joined by Stephen Myers. Unfortunately, he's not able to join us this morning, but I work with him closely on working with veteran resource centers across Orange County at 9 different college campuses. So I'll kind of highlight us a little bit on the work that I do with Stephen, but I would love to start it off with Juan Garcia and to speak about our Art of Valor event.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. So I'm Juan Garcia, U.S.VETS Orange County. I'm the program coordinator. I oversee basically just really getting rid of that negative stigma that overshadows accessing mental health and having that conversation about suicide prevention and suicide awareness. What we primarily do is that we really just lead by boots on the ground, being out in the community, being creative and creating events that really just draw in veterans and their family members into really just communicating internally. One of the most important components to reintegration for veterans that come back from military or discharge is their family. Literally getting out, having a family that's going to support you and understand what's going on is literally the key to success for all of our vets. The other thing that we went ahead and we put into fruition was, of course, the Art of Valor art show. It's kind of changed its name a little bit here and there, but we try to tailor it to the theme every single year. We're on our second annual art show, which we just completed on November 1st in partnership with the Richard Nixon Presidential Museum, Partners for Wellness, Connect OC, and the American Legion Post 291. Over a process of about 6 weeks, alongside a teaching artist and, of course, one of my team members, which is a veteran peer specialist, we provide a space for the veterans and their family members to just paint. And little do they know, over the progression of some time, they build like a little community. They feel safe. And a lot of them give us a lot of feedback sometimes. And they're like, you know what? I never realized that I was either a good painter, because some of the art they create like blows my mind. And then the other one is, I didn't know that I can actually be in such peace and that this was so therapeutic to just sit there and paint something. Then they look at their piece of art and it's a direct reflection of what they feel inside, either their trauma, their challenges, and their successes. And that to them means so much more than we could ever understand. And so what we do is, after they finish their artwork, we go ahead and we put together an art ceremony or an art show where we can display this art not only to the veterans, but also to the community. We have partners from all over Orange County and Los Angeles to come out to look at these pieces of art. And then we also recognize them by having music, food, and then just having a welcoming environment. Aside from that, what ends up happening after the art show and the recognition ceremony is that all of their art then goes to Richard Nixon Presidential Museum, and they display it for an entire month so that they can then go to the museum and see their art there in person with their family members and be like, I did that. That's me right there. If I've done one thing in this life that's good, it's that piece of art, and it looks amazing. So it's cool to be able to like just do full wraparound, then go ahead and check in with them. I know we built such a relationship, Aaron, with all of our vets that we've had come along the process, and some of them just come just to be a part of what we're doing. Yes. I love it. I love this partnership, and thank you so much for, of course, being there for us veterans, and not only the veterans, but for the family members as well, and for the children that we serve out in the community.
And thank you, Juan. It is a privilege to work on that project. And you're right, the relationships that are developed, not only with the veterans, with each other, but with the teaching artists and with ourselves, it does become, I think, part of one of the most important elements of the project. And as we had even someone who had reached out who had expressed thoughts of suicide, and we were able to connect them immediately to services. We've had people who expressed that they had lost a spouse recently, but that they felt connected to that person as they were engaging in the arts workshops. And so it can be so much bigger than it looks when people are just only working on the paintings, but that it represents so much more. And so I love working with you and your team. They are extraordinary, and they always are with us in every workshop and talking to every veteran and providing those resources that are so vital. And so yeah, I'm glad that we've done two. I'm looking forward to the next one. And I appreciate your time today as well. Thank you so much.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And if you have any questions, I'm here. So I'll be here for the entire time. So
Wonderful. And since we are also so honored to be joined by Dana Grethen, I was hoping that you could introduce her as well, and that we could also discuss some more about the Outside the Wire program and some of the how we work with veteran resource centers, and I can further that conversation with Dana.
absolutely. So Dana is our Director of Behavioral Health for U.S.VETS Los Angeles. She also works in partnership with our new site, officially U.S.VETS Orange County. So I definitely want to welcome her to go ahead and talk about the OTW program, the Outside the Wire program. And so the floor is yours. I popcorn it over to you.
Thank you, Juan. Good morning, everyone. It's so lovely to be here. Hi, Erin. Good to see you. I'm absolutely happy to present our program Outside the Wire today. So Outside the Wire Orange County has been around, we're on our 9th year, actually, and we have been operating in both Orange County and LA. We're currently across 17 college campuses. And our role is really to help student veterans access ready and free mental health services by folks who are specially trained to support and serve veterans. So we currently in Orange County, we're at 8 campuses, and we partner very closely with our Veteran Resource Center staff and team. I appreciate we are an extension of these teams. They welcome us in and give us space to provide free individual therapy to our student vets. Also, we do a lot of groups and a lot of events with our student vets. And I think, the goal really is to, of course, provide mental health and wellness services, but not always in those traditional ways that we consider. I think we also want students to have access to things like yoga, art, and that's where our partnership with Partners for Wellness has come in. We have an ongoing relationship in which we work with a teaching artist who will come to the Veteran Resource Center, the campus, and hold classes there. And it's just an opportunity for students to come together, connect with one another, build community, and also be able to engage in health and wellness in that way. And it's been a wonderful opportunity. Stephen is our case manager with Outside the Wire Orange County, and he is often the point person that Partners for Wellness is connecting to organize those efforts.
Yes. Thank you so much, Dana, for that overview. And thank you for stepping in at the last minute in such an eloquent way. I know that's
No
not
problem.
always easy. And it has been amazing. I partner with Stephen often. I think we talk probably 3 times a week. and as part of my job to coordinate having the teaching artists come to the different veteran resource centers and often that I get to go myself and to become part of those experiences. And it's neat to see. I think that the students on campus, and especially within the veteran resource centers, are looking for a way to connect and not just to come in and and see what's available randomly, but to know like, oh, I can engage in this art workshop, and I can engage in this yoga session, and I can engage in doing music. And just as an amazing example, yesterday we had coordinated an event at Fullerton College, and we usually anticipate having maybe 12 to 15 participants, and yesterday we had 47 students take part, and it was amazing. I shared pictures with our team because the students just kept pouring in and they just wanted to be a part of it. And luckily that Veteran Resource Center had the capacity, and our teaching artists had enough supplies to work with all those students. And so it is amazing to see the draw. And we also have, like you said, we've seen that the veterans enjoy the opportunity as well to bring in their families and to experience, especially the art workshops. Like sometimes they'll bring in, spouses, bring in their kids, and just have that time together. And they talk about the different branches, that they were with, and what it's like for them acclimating, back into this role that is so different from being active service. And I led a writing workshop recently at Santa Ana College, and there were we ended up with 5 veterans taking part, and a lot of them expressed just that overwhelming feeling of as they were active service and as they were in the military, that they had a schedule and they had that lineup of what they were to accomplish each day, and then coming back, not only just working through other people understanding what it was like for them being deployed, and even spouses having that understanding, but also feeling overwhelmed with, okay, now I'm back in school, I'm trying to work, and I'm interacting with my spouse every day, and often there's children at home, and just having all of those things function together. And so we found that our mental health writing workshops have been an important element as well, because sometimes just getting that aspect out into a journal entry, and then sometimes we combine that with an art piece, and it just gives them those moments of peace that they can resource later as well. And so thank you for everything that you do with Outside the Wire. I definitely see it happening, and I'm able to participate and coordinating with our teaching artists. When Stephen calls me and says, can you guys be here? Can you do this? We're always ready and willing, and we're planning some activities for the spring that will even bring the veteran resource centers together. And so I think that will be neat as well to just give them time to come together and create more opportunities for peer mentorship. And so that is a very important element, and it's neat to see how it's different on each campus. And sometimes it leads to other interaction. Like we were asked to be, as we were at one of the Veteran Resource Center events, we were asked to come back and be part of a coming out day for the LGBTQ Center. And then we were asked to come back and to do a writing workshop with the Black Student Union. And so it just integrates throughout the colleges and spreads the ability to share mental health resources. And so, excited to continue that partnership.
So are we. Thank you, Erin.
Yeah, thank you. And then I wanted to bring in Tom Boscamp at this point so that we could talk more about recent events that we've had at Coastline College, and then a big event that we're jumping into planning coming up in February. So thank you so much, Tom, for your time, and I'm excited to hear what you have to say about recent activities.
Yeah, you bet. So I'll start off that we do have the second annual Veterans Art and Resource Expo. So it started out with originally when Stephen had approached me and said, hey, let's have art workshop and everything. And well, at our Newport campus, we actually have that's a art gallery out there and ceramic classes and all of that. And I said, look, we have a campus built for this. And I generally like to make things like, okay, let's think big. Let's reach as many as we possibly can. And so we moved it out to there. And I think we had nearly 300 veterans show up last year to this event. And brought in tacos for troops out there, and we had a specialized coffee truck, and we had the acrylic painting classes, we had ceramics going on, we had OC Music and Dance also came out and did some voice lessons, and it was everything that if a veteran is looking, because everybody connects in some different way to how they can fulfill that emptiness inside, right? And for some, like for me, I play piano and guitar. I might be the worst stick figure drawing that you'd ever see in the world. When it comes to art, it's not me. Some people love to golf. I end up throwing the clubs everywhere. I just don't, right? But give me a piano, give me a guitar, and hey, I played since I was 6. I'd love it. And so we gave those opportunities, and we also brought in all of these different resources from the VA to, oh my gosh, there was fly fishing for veterans, equine therapy. We had PGA Hope there for golf. We had all of these different resources, Calvet. And so not only was it an art expo and they could express themselves in art, but then it was also resources because they don't know what they don't know. I'll give you an example. There was a family that came there that was sleeping in their car and ended up going down to the VRC, got with counselors down there, and I saw them at the one gentleman, I saw him at the stand down in Garden Grove. And he says, that event, I was in a dark place, and that event tipped me to get some help, and I'm in a better place now because we held that event. Who would have thought, right? So this year we're hoping to make it even bigger, reach the community as much as possible. And we actually have a meeting on that today, right?
We do, correct.
We do,
Yeah.
yeah.
Time to start planning for
Yeah,
this
time
year.
to start planning already.
I'm excited.
The other thing is I'll mention, well, first I'll tell a little bit about Coastline, is our veteran resource centers are different, we feel, in several ways. One of the ways is you do not need to be a student to utilize both of our VRCs. We have a Newport campus VRC and a Fountain Valley where I'm at right now. We're very deliberate about community veterans coming into the VRC because many of them end up becoming students. And we had a homeless, Juan remembers this, veteran that came in when we had our Garden Grove VRC open and had 35 cents in his pocket and his backpack and was sleeping in the park across the street. Came in, sat him down, fed him, went online, got to get all of his records for his service records. And, that changed his life. And he ended up becoming a Coastline student and works at the VA in San Diego now and lives in San Clemente. And in fact, he's taken some classes this upcoming semester. I just talked to him a couple weeks ago, getting him some book vouchers. So we're very deliberate about that. We're also very open to as many resources that we can possibly pull in. Whatever it is, as long as it's working and the organization, we vet them very well and to make sure that everything works, and which is why it was so great to partner. I'll remind me and let me talk about the movie night the next. But anyway, we even have a program called Hope Heroes, which is for incarcerated veterans that are taking classes at the prisons. Currently, we have about 187 that are enrolled, and we provide them with their book vouchers. We provide them with all the school supplies necessary. We work with the proctors at the prison and everything from calculators to whatever they're going to need. And we get letters all the time saying, you know, I'm getting ready to get out. I got my associate's degrees thanks to you sending me that graphing calculator. I passed my calculus class, and I'm getting enrolled at Cal State Fullerton and through Project Rebound. And you know, we're like, wow, this is the cool stuff, right? So that program is unique, and I'm trying to get other colleges to latch onto that program and duplicate that throughout California. So I'll talk a little bit about the movie night. This was awesome, right? So Stephen comes into my office and he's like, yeah, we want to have a movie night, right? And I said, you know, our Newport campus, we just happen to have a drop down screen and a whole area for seating and everything else. And he said, because, you know, we want to incorporate the mental health aspect of it and have some, um, you know, painting going on. And for us, there's a lot of veteran events, especially like Monday. You know, there's veteran events going on all over the place, right? And it's always, hey, we want you to come, veterans come to this event, but there's very few, hey, come to this event and bring your family because we're going to make it family friendly. You know, look, you've been separated enough through deployments and everything from your families. And the last thing we want you to do is have to go get a babysitter and, you know, so that's another reason why I let children come into my VRC. The families are always coming in, right? And so we wanted to make it family friendly. And we showed Inside Out 2, right? And we had a build your own burger bar, a catered in food from the stand, build your own burger and hot dog bar. And we even had a build your own burger and hot dog bar for the kids, a separate one where they had littler hot dogs and littler cheeseburgers and whatnot. Brought in all this food. And I thought, okay, when strong families, strong children, Mitzi's going to be there with the kids with the coloring books. And then, you know, we've got the watercolor painting. And I really thought, you know, they're going to be watching the movie. There might be a few kids that go to these tables and we'll kind of see. There was more, those kids were more at the tables, taking part in those activities than there was watching the movie. And I was just blown away. And I had so many of the veterans come up to me and say, you know, my family really needed this. Thank you for having an event that we could bring our family to, that we could bring our kids to. And it was awesome. So I'm already thinking we got to have these once a quarter because it was a hit. It was a hit. And
It's amazing.
so we just love being able to have those. You know, I never realized until I started partnering with you guys how much art goes into the mental health aspect of it, right? And like I say, I'm not an artist. I don't do that, right? And so it's hard for me to recognize. And what it did is it forced me to look outside the box once again and say, hey, you know, there's this is an aspect of mental health that really needs to be pushed more, right?
Yes.
And so we just love, especially with, you know, Stephen will come into my office and we'll sit down and we'll just like, hey, what do you think about that? And the next thing you know, we have it's blown into a full event and we're going gangbusters and going on it. I can also tell you, you know, it's the casework is very important as well because when one of the things that is a telltale I think, of whether you have a good Veterans Resource Center or not is when the veteran is in distress, where do they go? What do they do? And because of the partnerships that we've been able to have, is I get calls all the time. It was about, I think about 2 months ago, got a call in the middle of the night, and it was one of the veterans they had changed his medication, and he was having major anxiety. And his mom actually called me from, I think it was Georgia. And the next morning, we were the first place that he came.
Wow.
And said, and he was really distraught, right? And so he was breaking down in my office, and it was the medication that had thrown everything off. And so I called Corey with Outside the Wire. I said, hey, I have someone that needs it. Well, I have a 10 o'clock. I said, no, you don't understand. Like right now, he needs help. And so I took him up to a phone room upstairs, and he ended up talking with Corey for 30 minutes up there.
Yeah.
And today he was in the VRC yesterday. Today he's doing well. Those are the things. And that made me think, when they're in distress, where do they go? Right? Who can they call? Right? Where do they, and I was so proud of the fact that this was the safe space and the sanctuary that he felt comfortable enough to say, that's where I need to go. That's where I need to be right now.
Yes. It's life altering. Yes.
Yeah.
And that's amazing.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that. And thank you for all that you do through Coastline. It is incredible to see the reach, and definitely fully on board with more movie nights and with more of the resource fairs and things that we're planning together. And a question I'd like to put out to the panel, and Dana, thank you for being a part of this as well, is in some of our workshops in speaking directly with our veterans, especially the young veterans. And I was surprised to hear, and they said that when they are released from the military, that they feel that they're not given resources as far as even what their college aid will look like, or what money they have for college, or mental health resources, or even healthcare resources. And it is that something I'd be interested to hear from each of you. Is there a standard way that information is usually shared with people when they are finished with active duty, or how are we missing that piece, and how can we bridge that divide?
I can chime in. So there are programs that are put in place currently to help veterans reintegrate back into civilian life. There's a TAP program, and we're talking about it last night. Actually, there's another program as well. However, a lot of times you're so hyper-focused on getting out, on just like getting out and just starting your life. But then what ends up happening is that when you get out and you didn't pay attention to none of that stuff they're talking about, like finances, making sure that you're applying for a job, updating your resume, knowing that, hey, you had a paycheck, next month you're not going to have a paycheck. That isn't really at the top of your brain. You're just thinking about, I want to do my own thing. I don't want to be accountable to anybody. I want to wake up late. And then what ends up happening is that 1 year window that you have, if you don't start doing something positive with your life or start to figure out what's going on, like your purpose and your meaning, that one window then turns into a black hole. And next thing you know, that turns into 2 years, 3 years. And then you just don't know how to really reintegrate. So there are programs put in place, but that's why it's really important to have programs like Outside the Wire, because the first thing that a lot of us veterans do when we get out is that, number one, we're going to end up moving somewhere that we're familiar with or that we wanted to live. And then the second thing is that we're going to enroll into a community college. And that's why Outside the Wire is essential, because at those community colleges, they all have VRCs or they have other veterans. And if you educate one veteran, if you provide services in a location like the VRC, then that opens the door for the veteran to be like, hey, you ever thought about going into the VRC, man? There's other Marines in there. There's other Army guys in there. They have barbecues. They have refrigerators full of food. They have resources, financial resources, somebody that you can talk to. And although that may not seem like a lot, when you plant that seed in somebody's head, it'll sit there and you may be having a really bad day and you might feel like, you know what, these civilians don't understand me. You walk into a VRC and you're like, what? This like, yeah, it's so you gotta really be strategic about it. But also you need to educate and advocate on behalf of not only the veteran, but the community as well. I don't know if Tom wants to tap in, because you are at a VRC, brother, and I was in partnership with you when I was with Outside the Wire OC.
Yeah, so I like to have it as the sanctuary, and there's a lot of little things. Every VRC is different, and I think the more that the VRC is connected with the community, the better off the veterans that come into the VRC are going to be, because if you don't know what resources are out there, right? And so if you don't know, it's hard to direct them to. And I mean, I get a lot of calls from other VRCs, other colleges saying, hey, this veteran's behind on rent and he's got this and this is going on. Where can he get some help? And so we have a checklist, because we know, like Juan said, when you're getting out, you're not listening to any of that stuff. So they didn't listen to anything. So I'm going to remind them with a checklist.
Really?
Number one, have you filed for your VA healthcare? Have you filled out a FAFSA? Have you filed for unemployment if you're not working? Have you, and we have a whole checklist. It's like, oh, I didn't think about that. Yeah, I haven't done that, And so we have to kind of be their tap when they come in. We have to have we have to be that backstop and remind them. And so then the partnerships come in. And so that's what, everybody is always saying, how do you get all of the stuff that you have in the VRC, Tom? And how are you? And it's like, I don't, but I know a guy, or I know a girl, right? I know where to connect them to make sure that they're taken care of. Because the best part of my job is years later having them connect back with me. Say, because of you, I can't tell you, I can tell you at least 4 or 5 of my student veterans over the last 6, 7, 8 years that basically told me I'm ready to harm myself. Basically said, I mean, I had one guy come in, break down, and just said, I want to end it. Hey, are you thinking about hurting yourself? Yes, I am. I'm able to get Outside the Wire on the phone, right? Say, hey, I need you to talk to I'll never forget it, right outside my office there. When that one happened, well, guess what? He actually is married, has a new baby, has a business in Florida, and is doing fine. Another one, he worked for Department of Homeland Security as a supervisor today. I mean, so I've actually seen it happen. And when I see that, we just had this recently, we had an event where we bring in Outside the Wire to train our VRC workers. Because remember, I'm using VA Work Study, and they are the gatekeeper. They're at the front desk when the veteran comes in. That's why you hear that ding dong, right? That's somebody walking through the door in my VRC. My door's closed, but I have that so in case my guys at the front desk are not there. I have it back in my office, so when I hear that ding dong, I usually get up and look. So if it's a new veteran, I can greet them directly and engage them directly. And so they're not just standing up there like, where do I go? What do I do? But getting back to the other is we have outside the wire come in and do training of our staff, and it gets pretty deep and pretty heavy, right? Dana was at the last one that we had. We actually brought in all the colleges from our district, had all the work studies together. I make that mandatory for my VRC workers. You don't show up. I had one guy that did not show up when we had it last semester, and I just said, dude, I'm not putting you on the schedule. You couldn't show up on a Friday. I know Friday's good because there's no classes, and you didn't show up. Sorry, you're not. And he made sure this last one he showed up, right? But one of the things, they have the icebreaker, and the questions in the icebreaker, what branch of service, what's your major, and what's your dream job, right? And so I just said, Army. I've already graduated. I have a degree in cybersecurity, and this is my dream job, right? So this is what I get to do and see the impact that we can have in those lives. And it's just, it's the coolest thing in the world. I mean, people are like, why are you not working in a server room and working IT somewhere, making six figures and all of that? And it's like, yeah, but you don't understand. I did recently had knee surgery in June, and I had to take 3 weeks off. The VA basically said, you're not going anywhere for 3 weeks. You're down for the count. I was in a wheelchair, and you're not going to walk. You're not putting pressure on that knee. You're not doing. I was going nuts, not being around my veterans and not being in the VRC. So I had to, when I got back, it's like, oh man, I get to go to work today. Thank God. Right?
It's the passion. There's so much fulfillment in working with people and helping people. And I know everyone on this panel definitely feels that and does that work. And we appreciate you all so much for that. Another question I wanted to put out to our veteran panel as well is, how do you feel is the best way? And I know you were on the other side of it, but how do you feel that family and spouses and friends can support veterans as they are reacclimated and as they are facing the end of their active duty, and whomever would like to start, but that would be very helpful for the rest of us to hear, is how do we support our returning veterans?
I'll let somebody else take it for right now, and then I'll jump in after.
Okay.
Yeah. You want to go, Dana?
I could, share a little bit.
Absolutely.
I mean, I think, the veteran families are also having their own experience in all of this, in the transition, and are not only there to try to support the veteran through an insurmountable number of changes when they're transitioning out and navigating civilian life as a veteran, but also the veteran family is going through their experiences as well alongside of that. And that's why I think it's really important for us as veteran providers to have multiple points of access. Tom was talking about allowing space for veteran families to be in the VRC. I think that's really, really important. And also for veterans to be able to have many points of contact in an agency and in the community. And ensuring that our services and our support is kind of multifaceted. Because you just, everyone, even though we might have statistics and data around here as sort of the experiences, and here's the way in which we need to kind of plug and play services. Every veteran and their family is having a unique experience. So I do think it's important for us to have multiple points of contact and ensure that mental health services are as kind of welcoming as possible in ways such as like that movie night, for example. That might have been a first point of contact for some family members. You just
agree.
never know, right? And so that might be how a veteran and their family members are introduced to that community, or that's to that support. And you know, there's still a lot of stigma around mental health, accessing mental health and wellness services. So I
Sure.
think having, you know, things like the movie night, having writing classes or art classes where family is also welcome is just
Yeah.
vital to being able to sort of offer an open door, so that veteran families can also gain those connections and build community and support as well.
I appreciate that. Just further information for us as we build the program.
Mhm.
We could definitely incorporate family-friendly events and keep promoting that. And thank you for that information, Dana. I appreciate that a lot.
Yeah, and you know, that resonates definitely, Dana. Um, Communication is just huge. And a lot of times, just think about how many times in your personal life somebody's asked you, like, "How are you doing?" You're like, "I'm doing fine. I'm okay. Yeah. Oh, yeah, yeah." And they're like, "Really?" And you're like, "No, I'm totally fine." Uh, it's that communication component, being able to talk to your family members, as well as just, you know, your support system, and maybe providing a space for that communication to happen within a household. And not only that, just within relationships or within each other. A lot of times people don't want to communicate their feelings. We are taught in the military to really just bottle that up and keep it in, just carry on, but that's not helpful at all. And of course, then definitely removing that negative stigma that definitely is overshadowing just talking about your feelings, talking about concerns, uh, just that be like talking to your kids about what trauma looks like. I know that I did a research paper on uh, PTSD and how it has a trickle effect, how it really impacts your children and makes them more susceptible to alcohol behaviors that they wouldn't be if they were just, you know, in a regular household where everybody's loving each other and this and that. But when they hear yelling, when they see somebody just like really depressed all the time, then that affects the children. So educating yourself as well, providing education through different means, like that movie Inside Out. I know I put it in the chat. I love that movie so much that I watch part one and part two and make my kids watch it all the time. I just put it on the TV and let it go,
So good.
because it taught me, even as an adult, to acknowledge my feelings, and that it's, you know, how many households are like, "Don't cry. Why are you crying?" You know, and then you have to stop and you tell yourself, "Dang, why am I repeating the same exact behavior that I, you know, was used to?" So that movie really brings to light, you know, to accept your feelings, and it's okay to be sad and upset and angry. I love all the different colors and everything. That's one really good way to be able to, like, you know, sit there and look over your kids and educate yourself while you're educating them. So kudos on that, Tom, and definitely outside the wire and Aaron for going that route as well.
You know, I've actually kind of experienced last year. My daughter, who's an Army vet, her husband is active duty, warrant officer, and he got deployed for the second time within a 2-year period. And so my daughter and grandson came to live with us. And, you know, my grandson, who was 10 years old at the time, he's like, "Why is this always happening? Why am I always having to move? Why are we no longer at Fort Riley in Kansas and where all my friends are? And why, you know," and had to get him counseling as well as her. And actually had then family counseling via Zoom, because Jason had to Zoom in from deployment. And to see the, you know, so I've actually had to experience it myself within my own family, seeing my grandson just so distraught. And it's like, yeah, you want to go to Disneyland? Well, I don't know. And seeing him kind of struggle in school and seeing those things. Um, and then my daughter having to go through that, it gets tough. I
Yeah.
think you have to know, my job, I'm mental health first aid trained, and my job is just to get them there. You know what I mean? Let me guide you to where you can get help, right? And that's when I turn them over to Outside the Wire and other resources. But I think it starts with being open. I'm not some suit, like everybody here knows, Dana, Juan, when you see me, I'm in a t-shirt and shorts, right? And I've had managers at the college and sit there and go, how do you get away with what do you? And I'm like, no, but that makes me approachable. I'm not some suit back in an office where I'm not approachable. It's like my door is always open. They can walk in and see me. I'm like one of them. They actually, one of them recently said, we look at Tom as like our father figure, right? They like, I'm Papa and
Yeah.
so I have to play the NCO many times and take care of my soldiers, right?
Yeah.
And part of that is being able to recognize when there's an issue and being open enough to say, yeah, you can come to me with issues. You can come to me with problems. You can come to me. And I think it starts off with building a relationship of trust. I've got, the door is shut, but I've got a veteran out there right now who I met through another friend who, he had 2 deployments and just never was connecting with anyone, diagnosed with PTSD, and he's just very quiet. Well, they had a gathering, it was at the beach one day, right? Hey, come on out to the beach. So I went out there, met him, and we kind of hit it off. And I developed just a relationship. We would text me, hey, here's my card. Call me anytime. You have questions about GI Bill or anything education, let me know. And well, it turns out from ELAC, he had gotten his certificate for supply chain management, but never had a degree. And he's been trying to get different jobs, and all the places are asking for degrees. And so called me up and I said, yeah, we, start taking classes and you can do this. And so he's in the VRC right now. He's one of the students. I had him and he hangs out. I mean, he's in here 3 days a week now, totally bonding with all the other veterans, hanging out. He's completely different from when I met him a year ago. Completely different. I mean, facial expressions, body language, everything is completely different. He would, first times he came into the VRC, he wouldn't even eat anything. I got a refrigerator and freezers full of food and he wouldn't even get anything. Now he comes in, first thing he hits that freezer and starts, put stuff in the toaster oven and, or the microwave. And then I had him apply, he's been using GI Bill. I had him apply for voc rehab. He has been approved. And so now he's working on a plan for the business degree. And he applied, USC was his first choice, Cal State Fullerton second. And they said, hey, we've never been able to get anyone through voc rehab approved at USC, but we'll see what happens. So just being there, the guys know so my cell phone is on my business card and they know they can call me or text me at 2 a.m. Now, if it's during college football season and they call me on a Saturday, it damn well better be important. Because don't bother me for that. But I've gone out there and had to, or get on the phone and if they need to just cry and talk, and that's cool. That's okay. I think you just build those relationships first and it builds that trust, right? But then I also have that line of drawing that's like, hey, you screwed up. you're going to have to learn from your consequences.
Mhm.
You're going to have to pay the VA back for that class. And you're going to have to, I told you to get some tutoring. You didn't want to do it. You didn't listen to me. Now you're going to learn. I'm not going to bail you out of this.
Yeah.
Sometimes I have to be that stern NCO and just say, okay, suck it up. You're going to have to do it,
It's
Tough
true.
love.
The tough love is important. And I have heard that you are called Papa. And I think that for many of these young veterans, that is so important because you're right. They need that encouragement, but they also need that tough love moment of, you can't, just because you're not active duty, like you are still responsible and need to be accomplishing these things. And it's that ability to stay at that level of intensity. And it really does you know, lead towards success that otherwise they may not see. And I'm glad that we talked about the vulnerability today as well. That is something that is not allowed in the military, that it is more of a, you keep that to yourself. You don't say that, oh, this is hard, or I'm tired, or this was frightening. You don't say those things. And that many veterans keep those things bottled up for years, decades, and then we see the consequences of that later in life. And so having the space and within the art workshops, within the space with Tom, within the Outside the Wire, within Juan Garcia and his team, where they can be vulnerable and they can start to talk about that is so important, and that we see growth and just opening up, and the avoidance of substance abuse that would try to cover that rather than actually work through things as they're still so fresh in their minds. And I do want to open up as well to our participants in the discussion today. If there's anyone who has questions for our panel, we would love to hear that. And I know there's been some great comments in the chat as well. Michelle, thank you for your comments and your support as well. And so is there anyone that has a question for our panelists, or if there's anything else our panelists would like to add to the discussion, this would be a great time.
I'm really curious about the questions. I'll answer questions. Give me questions.
Yeah, somebody give Juan a question.
Yeah. Anything.
Ready.
Shoot out there.
Maybe somebody from Partners for Wellness has a question for our panel. I love that.
Oh, you're in the chat.
Get better inside out one or two.
That's a good one. Inside Out 2. Inside Out 2 is good. It's like they fixed everything from the first one to really get me to cry on the second one. Good question.
Hey, I will add one thing that, we just passed Halloween, right? And so there's little things that I try to be aware of in our Veterans Resource Center. So they have all the departments had decorations everywhere, upstairs and all over the place, and they have all the blood and skull and all that kind of stuff, right? And someone asked recently, "Oh, you're going to decorate the?" And if you'll notice, I never do Halloween decorations in the VRC, because this is a sanctuary and a safe place, and we have to be aware of those little things that can trigger, a skull and some blood, or something that would just bring back that memory. Like, I went into a VRC many years ago at Golden West. It was their old one. This is like 10 years ago, right? It was in a different building, and they had camouflage nets on the ceiling, covering the whole ceiling in the thing. And I was like, do you realize that a lot of veterans did not have good experiences underneath camouflage nets with those things over their heads? And that might just kind of, you think about that. You have to be conscious and aware of every little aspect of all of those, it may not seem like a lot, like me wearing shorts and a t-shirt, but those little types of things can make all the difference between someone getting help, someone feeling comfortable, and someone reaching out, do you?
That is so true. And that you have that inside knowledge that you know what can be activating for veterans is really important. And so we're so glad that you're cognizant of that and that we all need to be. We need to be thinking of that with the veterans in our lives. And yeah, I don't know if
Follow-up
there's
question on that really quick, Erin.
Yeah.
Like you bring up a good point with like the holidays and things like that. So veterans, many maybe have been deployed during some of the holidays. Do you find that, it might be a little overwhelming to be kind of back integrated into a lot of these family events or big, get-togethers that maybe they've been, missing from for a few years?
I could talk about this from firsthand experience. I got in the military when I was like 21. I think I turned 21 in basic training. From the moment that I joined from 21, I'm now 45 years old. Full disclosure. Still watching Inside Out. Come on. But literally, I have 8 combat deployments. During those 8-9 years, and the entire time that I was in the military, I stopped celebrating holidays. I literally lost track of my birthday. The last birthday that I remember that I had was like 28. And then after that, every year when people ask me, I was like, I'm 28, 28, I'm 28, I'm 28. And that may seem like very weird to say out loud, but it's because like my life literally had stopped. The birthdays, the holidays, any Christmas, Thanksgiving, we weren't celebrating it downrange in Iraq or Afghanistan. It's something that I didn't want to be a part of because it would make me really sad and depressed. And we all felt it, all of us. We're in the worst place that we could possibly ever want to be. And the last thing that we want to do is to celebrate. And so when I came back, when I got out of the military, I still continued that tradition. I wasn't cognizant of the holidays. I didn't care about them. I still didn't celebrate my birthdays. I got married. And then my wife was like, it's my birthday. Like, are we not doing anything? And I was like, no, I don't know. What am I supposed to do? Like, I haven't been doing this for the last almost 11, 12 years. And so this is like weird. And Thanksgiving and Christmas, I still didn't want to celebrate them. I didn't want to participate in them. Maybe if we went to somebody else's house, we'd host them. But it's because I was just so disconnected and so emotionally disconnected. For the last 2 years, I have actually embraced it. I've embraced my birthday. I've embraced November or Thanksgiving. See how I call it November? I call it Thanksgiving and Christmas and the New Year. I've been a little bit more receptive, but I can just tell you straight out, any other veteran that's gotten out of the military that's newly reintegrating back into civilian life, they disassociate. They will then go into this depression, which is, of course, it's in part by isolation. And then what happens when you're depressed and you're isolated from everybody during the holiday season and you're scrolling social media and you see people with their families and having fun and celebrating, and you're just sitting there by yourself, suicidal ideation happens. And you start feeling like you're really left out. And it's programs like this. It's preparing people and providing that space through social media to let them know, hey, you're not by yourself. Let's do a virtual online movie night, because that's a possibility. I didn't even know Hulu can do that. You can actually share a link and rent a movie and send it out to all your friends, and they can sit in the privacy of their own home. I like how Vivi was over there smiling because I've done it before. And then we all just sit, we just have a little movie night from the privacy of our own homes, and we're just kind of texting each other and enjoying it. That's a good way to be able to really just kind of be cognizant of the holiday season. Sometimes it's the best time for some people, but for some other people, they just want to be alone. And that being alone sometimes can really put you in a dark place.
I actually I'm very cognizant of any of my student veterans that I know that are having a rough time. And so I've had some of my veterans over for my Christmas dinner, had them over my house, Thanksgiving, same thing. And because my daughter, I remember every year, and they still do it. They're at Fort Riley now. Well, maybe not so much now that he's a warrant officer, but when he was an NCO, all of the soldiers that couldn't get home for the holidays, they would have over for Thanksgiving. I remember going to Fort Huachuca one time in Arizona, driving over there, and they had 30 soldiers over for Thanksgiving dinner. She had to go to MWR and rent all the tables and everything. And so we're actually, our VRC, we're looking at doing a little Thanksgiving party. So we kind of have, I'm bringing in all of the food and everything. And so those that don't have families, don't have a place to go. And the cool thing is when I have those kind of events, or when we do like the bowling nights or, those types of things, I come to find out later, it's like, oh yeah, man, this last Saturday, me and Sean and all these other, and they end up hanging out and forming bonding within themselves, right? And so it's like, oh, that's cool. Great. That was Saturday because I was watching games. So I'm glad that you guys went to American Legion 291 and hung out. Right. So yeah, that's kind of cool.
That is amazing. And I want to thank Spot for the information shared regarding Straight Talk counseling and mental health resources that are available through that organization. And 988 as well is a crisis hotline that people can either text or call and receive help. We want to make sure that U.S.VETS and everyone puts their information in there for immediate assistance, and especially, as we said, like during the holidays and just during times of crisis, that people are able to access resources. And so very grateful to our panel today. Juan Garcia, it's always an honor and pleasure and privilege to partner with you. And I'm proud of what we've accomplished with Art of Valor and other partnerships. And thank you for staying this whole time. I know this has been a very busy week for you, and your input and your everything that you shared has really been incredible and heartfelt. And Tom Boscamp, I love partnering with you. I'm excited about what we have going forward with the Art and Veteran Resource Fair at Coastline. And thank you for working 24 hours a day to work with the veterans that you do, and just really giving them that mentorship and that father figure sometimes that they really need, and also just that best friend. And Dana, thank you so much for stepping in today and sharing more and just being present. And thank you for all that your U.S.VETS program does to help veterans in our community. I really do appreciate your time, and it was lovely to meet you last week at Art of Valor as well.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, thank you so much. And yes, thank you to all. And I'd like to pass it on to Sarah Chalice, who's gonna take over with our program updates. And yeah, again, thank you, everyone.
Thanks, Erin, and thank you to Juan and Tom and Dana for your really awesome insight. Just getting to look into the lives of veterans and how we can support them well. It's really impactful and really great pieces of information that I can take with me into the rest of my career and into just things in day-to-day life. Yeah, so not much to update on our end. We just finished a couple of resource fairs. Thank you to all who attended those as vendors. They were really awesome, really successful. We had at least like a couple hundred participants at each of them. So it was really cool. And we got to do some cultural art workshops as well at each of them. Yeah, so we just have a couple of resource fairs coming up in the new year, one in February at UCI and then one in April at Cal State Fullerton. Those are really large scale events. So we're really looking forward to those. And invites should be going out soon to table for those. And yeah, so I can open it up to anybody who has program updates on for our partners. Yeah, feel free to unmute yourself if you have anything to share.
I did want to share as well that through our cultural arts program, we also work with foster care organizations and domestic violence shelters, homeless shelters for transitional age youth. And we work with groups who have experienced sex trafficking and other traumatic events, including traumatic sexual assaults. So I do have, through Partners for Wellness, workshops available in small settings. And if there is anyone who, is interested in partnering for things out with veterans and outside of veterans, specifically the 16 to 25-year-old demographic who has experienced dire life circumstances, please contact me as well. And yeah, I'll put my email in the chat as well again. So thank you.
Thanks, Erin. Anybody else have any updates before we head out? Okay, I guess not. With that, thank you again for coming. We are TBD for the next meeting. We're thinking about having in person, just doing a little Christmas, maybe holiday something in December, maybe cultural art workshops. Well, we're still brainstorming, but yeah, so that might be in person. We will definitely let you know any updates on that end as well. If you haven't taken our survey, please take a minute to do so. We would really appreciate your feedback. And with that, have a great Veterans Day weekend, and we will talk soon.
Thank you.
Thank you so
Remember,
much.
wear camo, make camo your cause. Y'all have a good one.
Thank you,
Everyone.
everyone.
Bye-bye.
Have a great weekend and happy Veterans Day.
Thank you. Bye-bye.